Okay, so we're going to go ahead and so this is the video for our final project to show how it works and that we completed it. So the goal of the final project is to create a virtual private network that is similar to this diagram right here, where you have one subnet behind this gateway and another subnet behind this gateway, and then you have a tunnel between the two gateways, and this tunnel will be using UDP, and the goal of this is to allow clients on this subnet to be able to communicate securely with clients on this subnet and have that appear as they're on the same network. So what we're going to do is that we're going to set up a tunnel between the two gateways, and we'll just call this tunnel point A, and this will be tunnel point B. And we have two virtual machines that are representing the gateways. So here on the left is gateway, which will be this one, and then we have this virtual machine is named host, and it'll be tunnel point B. So generally when you have a UDP tunnel, you'll have one side acting as a server and one side acting as a client. And what we did is we just went ahead and made tunnel point A, so the virtual machine on the left will be acting as the server, and here on the right we'll have the tunnel point B, and this side the tunnel will be acting as the client. So the first thing in the presentation or the video we need to do is go ahead and just start running the server. And we just have this script right here that essentially calls our programs to run the server. So what this does is we go ahead and we just have some logging information to help walk through what our program's doing. And right now the server, what it's telling us that it's setting up the VPN server, and it's listening for clients on port 55555. And that right now the server is just kind of waiting on clients to connect. So let's go over here to our client video. And what we're going to do right now is we're essentially, this host is going to try to connect to this server. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we try to connect. So what happened now is over here on the server side, we see the we received that a request to connect from the 10.0.22 IP address. So this will be we just go ahead and print out this is an unverified client. So we're going to want to go ahead and verify that they actually who they say they are, and that we want to allow them to connect to the virtual network. So we do this by first, we don't want to after the client requests to connect, we want to go ahead and start talking to them on a secure communication channel. So through this channel, we're going to be able to exchange keys and pertinent information to do encryption on the UDP tunnel later. And I want to point out that this secure communication channel won't be on the tunnel, but instead it will be listening on a different port that's going to be using SSL to secure it. So right now we see that the server tells us that the communication channel was created on this port right here, 55556, and that once it creates and starts listening on this port, it goes ahead and it sends a request to the client to make a secure connection. So over here on the client side, we see that the server has requested us to connect to the communication channel, and that we print out that the client prints out that it's attempted to connect to the secure channel with the server. However, there's a pause right now because when I created my server certificate, I put a password on it, so I have to type in the password every time we want to use the certificate. Okay, so after typing in my password, we'll look at the server side first. So this message right here is just telling us that the client was verified through the SSL handshake, and that now we're going to go ahead and agree on a session key and a session IP. And once that happens, the server goes ahead and generates a session key and session IP, and that's what's happening in these three lines. So this actually should say session key, and this should say session IP. So once the server has completed generating this key and IP, we're going to go ahead and send it to the client through the secure channel. So that's what's happening right here, which is sending session key to client, and then it sends the IV to the client. The next message is just saying that we went ahead and we created the virtual network interface, and we named it 220, and it's the program's telling us that we need to go ahead and configure it and use it. So what the program means by configuring it is that we need to essentially set up the routing tables to make sure the correct packets that need to go through the tunnel will go through the tunnel. So now if we look on the client side, what happened? So we see, we go ahead and we see that the secure connection was established with the server, and we see that the server printed out, sent us the session key and session ID. So this is the session key, and this is the session ID. And generally we wouldn't want to log these, but for the presentation, it helps us show that we're sending the session key and the IV. And then we go ahead and also just print on the client that we also created a network interface called 220, and that we need to go ahead and configure it and use it so that we can set up the tunnel. So we go ahead on, we have a couple scripts that are used to set up the tunnel, and basically what they do is just make sure IPv4 forwarding set up, and that we also want to just make sure the routing table is correct. So that's what's happening here. We go ahead and we set up the 220 interface, which is called ton0 on this port right here, but it's actually 220. We just go ahead and make sure that it's given the address 4.1. And then we also do that for the client side, so if we give it the address 10.0.5.1. So we go here on the client and we run a similar script. So now the routing tables on the server have been set up, and the routing tables on the client have set up. So just to go ahead and verify everything's working, I'm going to paint the oh, sorry, I ran the wrong script. So now we see that the 220 is up, and it has the address 10.0.4.1. Just verify this one's up again. So, and this has the network interface 220 over here has the IP address 10.0.5.1. And we're going to go ahead and from the client, go ahead and ping this IP address. So we see on the client side that we had the pings working successfully because we're getting replies. So that's looking good. And we go ahead and we just look at the tunnel, and we put in these logging, just saying that we're decrypting the receive packet and encrypting the response. And we wouldn't really log these, but the reason we do this is because we wanted to just make it more entertaining and show that the tunnel's actually doing something. And if you go here and look at the client side tunnel, you can see that it's also encrypting and decrypting packets. So also we can look at this on Wireshark, and if we sniff packets on the 220 interface, we can go say that we're getting the requests and replies. So now, since we verified that the client can ping the host, so now we just need to verify that the server, or I'm sorry, the client can ping the server. Now we just need to go ahead and verify that the server can ping the client. So we do that just by pinging 10.0.5.1. We see that the server also is getting responses from the client, and we see that the tunnel is still encrypting and decrypting. So the final thing we need to go ahead and do is see if our encryption is working correctly. And what I'm going to do with that is just open up Wireshark on my Mac. So And we go ahead and listen. We see these on this loopback interface. We have these UDP packets being sent. However, we don't see ICMP packets like we did in the virtual machines. However, this is the communication between the two VMs. And we see that it's running over the UDP protocol, which our tunnel is implemented in. And if we go ahead and we follow the UDP stream, we see that even in the payloads, we don't see that as an ICMP message. We just see the encrypted data. And this is the encrypted data we went ahead and base64 encoded before we sent it across. So that goes ahead and that verifies the first part of our project's working. And the next video will show the telnet demonstration, and we'll be